Well, scientists at NASA have warned smoke from the Australian bushfires will make at least one full circuit around the globe. The space agency has been analysing the smoke from late December using a fleet of satellites. Joining me now live is Brad Tucker, astrophysicist and cosmologist at the Australian National University. Brad, good morning. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no worries.
Firstly, take us through how this happens. Does it show how bad the smoke really is in Australia?
Yeah, it really does. So there's a lot of what we call Earth observation satellites. Now, these have been helping with trying to figure out where the smoke is going, but also things like wind patterns and weather patterns, potentially rain, but also moisture content. But as you track the smoke going away, NASA's noticed that while the smoke is dissipated, it's kind of slowly spreading out in the Earth's atmosphere, the band of it has traveled around the Earth. And in fact, some of the smoke going over southern Australia, so Tasmania and a bit of Victoria, is actually from this original start of the bushfires when it really got bad back in November. And in fact, colleagues in Chile about a week or so ago were really noticing red sunsets because they were looking toward the west and they were seeing all of the smoke coming from Australia and seeing it. So it really is a very global phenomenon. What is the impact now of these fires?
And how long would it take for all this smoke to do a full circuit around the globe?
So look, it kind of depends on wind speeds and where it's traveling, but it looks like it's doing a couple weeks, kind of doing a couple week loop, so to speak, and it is spreading out as it goes over, and eventually we won't notice this band of smoke. But you have to imagine that as the later plumes of smoke, so to speak, say New Year's Eve when there was a lot, those will also be traveling around the Earth. So even when the fires go out, we're probably not going to see the end of the smoke. Eventually it will dissipate, but we'll see it for probably another couple weeks as it travels around the Earth. So, it's not just a straightforward end with these fires, unfortunately.
No, definitely not. Brad, overnight 2 NASA astronauts completed the second all-female spacewalk to carry out upgrades on the International Space Station's power grid. It's the second time, actually, that the pair have made history. Take us through it.
That's right. And the first time they were supposed to make history, they had this snafu where they both needed the same size spacesuit, and they only carried one medium on board, and so they had to cancel this. So this kind of forced NASA to not only think about how they're designing spacesuits for the future moon missions, but what they carry on board now. So they had their very first all-female spacewalk, knowing that only 13 females to that point had actually done what we call the spacewalk, the EVA, and now they're doing their second one, and potentially the same 2 astronauts will do a third one doing repairs. So it's really showing a shift in the change of the culture of astronauts and what's happening with space travel. And as NASA has announced over the summer, the first class of astronauts that will be part of this moon mission, we've seen that it makes up nearly 50% male-female. So really a shift in culture from what we saw, say, 50 years ago when it was only men in the astronaut corps.
It's good to see a bit more progressive, I guess, Brad. Now, the first food to be baked in space, this is a good one. A batch of cookies, in fact, has landed back on Earth. Take us through the experiment itself. What are researchers hoping to find out?
Look, everyone's been looking forward to these results, and it's because not only are they tasty, but hopefully, it's really just to show, can you make things in space? So NASA sent an oven to the space station back in November, and the goal was to see how do things form in space. Because of microgravity, things we now know definitely set and form and grow differently than they do here on Earth. And if future humans are going to be baking and cooking and making things in space, doesn't work the same in space as it does here on Earth. So they sent a specially baked oven, a space oven essentially, and they had cookie dough or biscuit dough where they put it inside this capsule to help it bake and grow, and they successfully made 5 biscuits or 5 cookies, and those just came back down to Earth Tuesday night our time, and so they'll be compared to the similar dough made here on Earth. And really the question is, do air pockets form the same way? Is it the same height? Is it the same density? Does it have the same structure? Is it even edible? Maybe it doesn't rise right, so it's actually not edible. All important questions we need to know for the future space travelers in the next decade.
So was anybody able to take a bite out of one of these cookies when it was actually in space?
So I don't know that. I think that's highly classified information at this point. They did say they set out milk because they made them in time for Christmas for Santa as well. So maybe there was milk and cookies in space. Probably there was.